Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of our Double Dose podcast. Today, you are in for an absolute treat because we've got one of South Africa's most famous people joining us today. And listen, I cannot believe that we are so lucky to meet this guy. We bumped into him in Joberg and we got on like a house on fire. Absolutely. It's some people are soulmates, and that's what we were. So, the thing about it though is that we have been girl crushing on you for the longest time. Yeah. So we are so happy to welcome Prev Reddy. Welcome, Prev.
Hi, guys. It's so crazy because you know how I feel about the two of you. Like, even before we met in Joburg, I was always like Instagramming, commenting, sharing. I never missed an episode. So I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm excited. And we had the best night. For
So
people who are listening, that content creator night, we bumped into each other. We got along like a house on
oh my
fire.
gosh.
There was an
Okay.
after party for the show, and we were like, we're not going. So we all went to pantry and ate pizzas. It was just
Absolutely.
the best time.
Exactly.
It was the
The
best.
best. It was.
Yeah,
But we want to start by saying thank you so much for all of your support on the show.
of course.
From not knowing us at all, you have been in our DMs, you have been supporting us throughout,
Yeah,
and we love that vocal support for other people
yeah,
in whatever field you're in, right? And that really
yeah.
does show the type of person you are. And we love that.
Thank
Yeah, we
you.
want to say thank you so much.
Thanks.
For us
Of
again,
course.
we always explain to people that we were ordinary moms and the show came
Yeah,
about, and here came all the people that we have been following on social media and we've been loving their
yeah,
content now come and read that. It's surreal for us. It is.
yeah, yeah. No, 100%. Also, I think I always get excited when I see Indian talent and Indian shows because I just know how few and far between they are. So the fact that it was Mommy Club and mothers are such a big thing in our lives, period.
It
So
is.
it was nice to see it reflected, and you guys were just so good on the show, man. You guys were so it was like the heart of the show, and all of my friends and I would have watch parties. Like we would have
Can you
watch
please
parties.
start?
We'd sit.
Who is your friend?
Shikhaina, Devi
Woohoo!
Sankri loves the show. We talk about it. Just so many industry friends. We're just hooked because we're all from Durban. Durban is home, and you guys represented everybody really really well. And I think that's why the whole country fell in love with you guys.
Thank you
Love
so
that
much.
so much.
And now you're a Joburg boy. So can we start off? What is the difference growing up in Durban and now settling? How long are you in Joburg for?
So I call this my Joburg Part 2 run. I actually moved to Joburg when I graduated in 2016, 17. No, yeah, around that time. I came to Joburg to try and make it, but nothing was happening for me. So I lived here for about a year and a half and I went back home. And then things started happening. And so I got back to Joburg when I started shooting Miss Education. That was like 3 or 4 years ago, and then I just made the jump. Once we were shooting the show, I was like, okay, I can see that my life is being set up to be in Joburg, so it just made sense to do it at the time. Yeah, so now officially like 3 or 4 years I've been here. Yeah.
Oh, wow. And the difference in cultures. Because I know
Yeah,
my
it's
Joburg friends come to Durban, and especially when they've had kids in Joburg and they come to Durban and they're like, there's a lot of Indian people in Durban.
yeah, I think that's it. Like going out in Joburg, especially, is such a different life than going out in Durban. Everyone here is very integrated, very mixed. And it's not to say that we aren't back home, but you know what I mean? Like it's just anywhere,
Yes,
and it's not just,
back home for sure.
yeah, and not just like cultures, different types of people and different types of ethnicities and cultural backgrounds. So it is vastly different. And then that's also for me why I look forward to going back home every time, because Durban is Durban. It doesn't change in the best way possible. So it is a bit of an adjustment when you make the move here. But I also think being in the arts and entertainment field, you're already equipped to a very colorful world.
Absolutely, I do agree. So, art and entertainment. Is that every
Mm,
parent's worst nightmare when their child tells them, I would like to look at comedy, I would like to look at
mm,
entertainment?
mm,
How did you have that conversation with your parents? How did the career start? And how
mm.
are you navigating it now?
I don't think our parents don't want us to pursue our passions, our dreams. I think they just want us to be okay at the end of it. And because the arts
Yes.
is something they've never encountered, they don't know what that outcome looks like. They only hear from struggling actors and da 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 da. Which yes, this industry, a very big part of it is struggle, you know. But so I always say it's not that they don't want you to do what you want to do. It's just that they want you to be okay 20 years from now. I was very lucky with my parents in the sense that, yeah, I think I was very lucky in the sense that I showcased very young that I was an artsy child and I wanted to perform and this and that. From the time I was like 2 or 3, always singing, dancing, grannies pushing me in the center, go, 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 go. And then when I got to high school, it started to get a bit more real. I was making my we were looking for auditions and whatnot. And then in Durban, there used to be a project called the Young Performers Project, which was a project put together by theater professionals, and they would audition kids all over KZN. And then you'd go through like a 2 month rehearsal period of rehearsing for a musical. And so I went for, at 15, I went to audition for the show Hairspray. And that's where I met Shekinah. That's where I met Blessing. That's where a lot of Durban people that you know now have gone through that project. So I got into young performers, and then my parents started to be like, okay, this is looking a little bit serious, but it's fine. You're 15. We're going to let it happen for now. I then ended up doing 3 more of those shows. So I never had a July holiday in high school because I was always working. I was always in a rehearsal. And then when I got to my matric year, my parents were like, okay, you're going to study law because you obviously like to talk, but we need you to study
Yes.
something legit. And so registered for UKZN, got like prelim acceptance and whatever. And the more we were getting closer to starting university, the more I just felt very uncomfortable. The thought of sitting in a class for 4 years, doing something I don't want to do, it was making my skin crawl. So I found out about AFTA. I found out about the Performing Arts School. I found out that they offered producing as a degree, right? So I was like, okay, my parents are worried about money and business. So if I tell them I'm going to go study producing, which is basically the business of film, they can't say no because technically it's a business degree, right? So
Yes.
that was it. And then at the time, Anand Singh was very big. He had his Nelson Mandela movie
Yes.
out, and I was like, oh no, I'm gonna be
Yes.
like Anand Singh. So
Oh, yeah, there you
and
go.
and so they bought into it, and then they let me study, and then obviously it had to become a career after that. So I was very fortunate in the sense that I didn't have a lot of pushback from my parents. I think they could see that I was doing it. And I think when they came for that first show when I was 15, and then the shows after that, they could see that I could actually do it as well, you know? So,
And AFTA is a
yeah,
phenomenal school, and especially
yeah,
with being brown and being difficult to get to universities, I think we need to explore.
yeah,
My child goes to Mia goes to Vega, but I'm so
yeah,
grateful for these little schools and private universities that help us to have
yeah.
options. I think the entertainment industry is something that's growing because it's giving you so many different avenues to be successful. You've got social
Mm,
media, you've got small
mm,
productions, you've got YouTube. You can
mm,
actually get seen and be seen in so many different platforms
mm-hmm,
now that it
mm-hmm.
really is lending to really good careers.
Mm. Well, again, and that's it, right? I think when I told you guys that when my first move to Joburg, I had graduated, I'd moved up, I was trying to audition, but there weren't roles. No one at that time anyway was writing young Indian characters on television. So I was trying my best there. I was working as a PA. On TV sets, bringing actors scripts, bringing them coffees, teas, whatever the producers needed. At the same time, I was also trying to do stand up, but no one was putting me on their stages. So I was begging, 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 and they're like, oh no, this, because Indian comedy also has a reputation for being specifically tailored for Indians, right? The jokes
Yes.
and the way, whatever, whatever. And I'm like, okay, but I'm not doing So it was all a struggle. And then I came back home and I was like you said, I was like, hold on, I have the internet, I have Instagram, I have Facebook. Facebook was the big one at the time. Like, so I was like, I don't need someone to tell me no. I don't need someone to tell me, no, you're not funny. No, you can't be here yet. No, no, no. I'm like, I can write because I had just gotten my degree. I had a camera. I went to film school, so I knew how to edit. And I was trying to act. So I did all of that together, and then I put the videos out, and then the videos became the videos and whatever. But that's exactly it. There's no right or wrong way of doing something anymore. You know, if you know you can do it and you are equipped to do it, just to go. Yeah.
Absolutely. And with that, obviously, we know Auntie Shamila before we know Prev Reddy. Auntie
Yes.
Shamila was a phenomenal, an absolute icon. She was an icon. I mean,
Thank you.
you walked into it, and then the differences with the perspective of moms and sons, we
Yeah.
absolutely loved it, and it resonated with so many. My son and my daughter love you. So
My
Thank
girls love
you.
you. You
I
so
love them.
basically, how did, and I know Auntie Shamila started with an actual argument with your mom that then you
Yeah.
reenacted. How did that
Yes.
come about, and did you ever anticipate a character would do as well as she did?
And the answer is no. Yes, like I was saying, you know, people will tell you like, oh, let's make a viral video, or this video is going to be a viral video. You don't know what a viral video means. I always say, you know, in like a kiddies game room, there's that machine that has the coins and the magnet, and you put a coin in, and it might spit out all those coins. It pushes it out. That is the internet. You got to keep putting that coin in, and if you strike the right nerve, it will happen. But you can't predict that.
100%.
You know, so when I did the video of Auntie Shamila, it was really it wasn't with the intention of or let me rephrase that. I did want it to become a thing because I wanted to make my skits and I wanted to have viewers and I just wanted people to watch me because people weren't watching me when I was in Joberg. That's really all it was about.
So this was before 2020. If anybody got a lot of views or famous before 2020, when people were not as addicted to their phones post COVID, you have real talent. I just have to say that. Totally. Right? Because now I think everybody was easier to blow up during COVID and the years that people spent on their phones afterwards. That was amazing.
Yeah, so like I was saying, right, it was kind of the perfect storm because 2019 I started it. 2019 I did that come here, I'm not gonna hit you video that everybody like watched. And so and then it took that whole 2019 year to I was like, okay, this is what people want to see. I have so many scenarios like this that I can do. So I just started doing the small little quips that mom, oh, where must I put the container? Put it on my head, or you know, just those, all of those things. And so I was, the views were accumulating in that 2019 period, and then COVID hit, and so what had happened was at that point, at the end of 2019, I got a promoter that called me to bring Auntie Shamila to stage, right? So for me, I was like, okay, this is gonna work. Because I've been dying to get on a comedy stage. Nobody wanted to put me on a comedy stage. So I'm going to let everyone come see Auntie Shamila, but I'm going to open the show first. So Prev will come out. Prev will get to say what he wants to say, and then he'll bring Shamila out. So I'm like, so in my head, I'm like, okay, it's starting to work now because now I'm getting on a stage. And then, and then having a musical theater background, I was like, Auntie Shamila's not going to come on stage and just do comedy. Like, I've seen where people take characters to stage and it's just comedy, and I'm like, that's not it. Like, I've made this character so big that she could do anything. So I incorporated the dancing, I incorporated the singing, because also in that year, Shamila was singing parodies, like how she and her husband, Uncle Babu, met was like Nelly's, dilemma. So we got to do all of that, and then we were in the middle of a very big, like my first big casino shows that I was starting to do, and people were buying tickets. But at this point, it was only the Indian community that kind of knew who Shamila was. And then we do the first set of shows at Carnival City, and then we finish those shows, and we're coming back, and then the country goes into a lockdown. And I was like, okay, well, this is the end of my career now because whatever. But then having gone to film school, I was like, okay, I have all the time in the world now. Let's create sketches. We did the Real Housewives of Durban because that was coming out. And I
Yes,
was
yeah,
like,
love
no.
that. Love that one.
So now I had the time to be creative. I had the time to figure out how am I going to put Auntie Shamila and her best friends in the same frame, in the same scene. But I had the time to do it. And everybody was at home watching, so then the views started to skyrocket. And I think it was in that COVID year that I got my first brand deal, and it was with FNB Bank. I got a call from FNB, and they had just launched their like online banking, because their online banking app wasn't as big as it is now, but people needed to learn to bank from home, right? So they contacted me for a 1-year campaign. I never saw money like that in my life. I never worked with a brand like that in my life, and it was all because like we were home. And so once the brand deal started coming in, I was like, okay, so now I can be smart about this content and make it a whole career. And then it snowballed. But it was crazy. It was like everything I had learned from doing those theater projects in school to studying producing in varsity, it all eventually worked in my favor because I knew how to run this business.
Yeah, that is
So
amazing.
what you're essentially saying to all the kids out there is that
Yeah.
talent is where it starts, but you do
Yeah.
need to have the educational background as well to make it work.
Absolutely. Talent is 5%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Talent is 5%. And you have to, especially in South Africa, you have to know the industry inside out. If you say, I'm going to be an actor and I'm only going to act, you must be okay with only working 1 out of 12 months. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that's how it goes. So you need to constantly like upskill so that you can stay afloat. And if you're really passionate about the industry, it doesn't matter which aspect of the industry you're working in, you're still in it, and everything is seasonal. So you have to.
And then that led to your Nickelodeon award. I remember so clearly sending that to everyone I knew
Literally.
because it was as if our son got nominated.
I
It was insane
know.
how proud we were
And
that this
Nickelodeon,
boy-
yeah, Nickelodeon
Nickelodeon-
Kids Award is a big deal.
Yes.
In our house, literally, it's recorded and watched and repeat.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you're watching the singers
Yeah.
and you're watching the actors and you're seeing what they wear, and it is
Yeah.
big for kids going on
Yeah.
to teenagers and then moms of them because
Yeah.
we know the
Yeah.
date, we have it on record and we're watching the PRV.
Yeah,
PVR.
yeah. It was. I tell you, and again, it was such a heartbreak, right? Because we had come home from that Carnival City show. We went on that lockdown, but flights were still happening to certain countries. So as I got home, I got the call from Nickelodeon that we had been nominated for the awards. So I was like, okay, that's very exciting. They were sending me to LA, right? I had
Wow.
flights booked. I had everything. Everything was sorted out. 2 weeks before I was supposed to depart, South Africa got red listed. So we couldn't go to the awards. But getting that call was so bizarre to me because that award show, my granny and I watched religiously. My dad's mom has been a very big supporter. So when I got the call, I was so stunned. And then I saw the people who were in the same category as me, and I was like, there's no way I'm winning this. I'm a small boy from Durban with 30,000 followers. These people have 1 million, 2 million. It's so nice to be in this group, and it's so nice to have the opportunity to go
That's
up. Like,
enough.
fine. But it was a public vote, right? So the public had to vote. And then when I got the call, I think that it was the day before the awards was going to air. And then I got the call from Nickelodeon, and they were like, just to let you know, you did win the award. It's coming to you. Please record a thank you speech and then send it to us. And I remember crying. Everyone in my house lost their mind. All my friends and family like jumped on a big Zoom call because we were going to watch the taping together. And that was the sentiment. Everyone in the comments and stuff, especially when we announced that we won, and that's the thing about the Indian community. They support. Like, we support each other. Because the love and support that I got when we won, and I say we all the time because I wouldn't have won that award if it wasn't for everyone who voted.
Yes.
And that was the same thing. It was just like, we're so proud, we're so proud, we're so proud. So it was a very magical time, a very reassuring time for me to know, okay, I can keep going.
And And I think a lot of our content creators evolved after you because they've watched
Yeah.
you. You're the OG. You are one of the starter
Yeah.
group of content
Mm,
creators, and
mm,
that's how we all emerge. And now we have like so much, and it's amazing.
yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah.
congratulations on setting the
Thank
pavement in the
you.
way for everyone else. And then you went on to
Yeah.
a SAFTA. I'm saying I would have said Nickelodeon, Kids' Choice, cherry on the top, we're good to go. And then it's a SAFTA. I mean, that
Yeah.
is crazy. Tell us about that.
I know. I know. I look, that was the goal, right? I'm not gonna lie. Winning an acting award was always on my vision boards. It was part of my plan. I just didn't know how I was gonna get there. So the fact that it happened the way it did, and then having the Nickelodeon it's just, you know, when you constantly want to know what your calling is, and then God gives you continuous signs of here, this is no matter
This is
when
it.
the down days are down days, remember
Yes.
that you can, you know. So it was bizarre to me when that happened because I wasn't going to audition for the show in the first place. Like I said no to auditioning for the show.
Wow.
So yeah, my agent had called and she said that Burnt Onion Productions was looking for this role. He's 19 years old. I was 24, 5 at, no, 26 at the time. And so I was like, okay, but I'm not 19. Like, I don't look 19. I don't feel 19. I can't play 19.
You still look
So,
19, for sure.
thank
Can we
you.
just say that you still look
Yeah.
19?
Thank you. I'm 30 this year. How
Oh my
crazy
God.
is that?
That is
That's
crazy.
Yeah,
crazy.
I know. I listen, we don't crack. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
for
We
sure,
don't
for
crack.
sure. I'm gonna let you
So,
down.
you know, so yeah, so I said no. And then my agent called me again 2 days later and she was like, listen, the producer called and the producer wants to see you on tape. She doesn't care you're not the age, just record the scene and send the tape. So send the tape, and then long story short, that whole process happened. We booked the show. And then eventually, once I got into it, I was very excited about it because we've never seen a young, openly Indian queer character in South African TV. We haven't, who is very comfortable in his skin, who is, but he also doesn't give into that typical gay stereotype that the Indian community has, especially when we put them on screen. He was a teenager, he was a young adult, you know, and his biggest thing wasn't coming to terms with his sexuality, it was trying to figure out how to find love in that realm. And that's what I really like enjoyed about it. And then it just happened to be one of the characters that everybody, the words were refreshing to see and like, you know, resonated with. So the SAFTA thing was just insane. Like, because it's a SAFTA,
How
guys. Like,
true
it's a
to your,
huge deal.
how true
Yeah.
did you feel your character was?
So much. There were so many times where, and I think that's what made doing that show so magical for a lot of us, is because actors will tell you when you get the right role at the right time, and that was the right role at the right time. Because when I was doing that, by the time I started shooting Miss Education, I was already in my head getting ready to rap Auntie Shamila. I believe in like ending things when things are good, as opposed to when
Yes.
people are over it.
The public loved her. So when
Yes.
we
Yeah.
heard that Auntie Shamila is retiring, it was
Yeah.
heartbreaking.
It was. It really was.
I know. I got some scary messages from people, like, and mean messages also. You know how mean the internet can be. But in doing, so by the time I had, because by the time I started shooting the show, I had done 5 years of Auntie Shamila, right, or like 4 or something to that effect, and I wasn't living with my mother anymore, so it wasn't in the air. And my family was a big inspiration to the character. And I'm the type of person who will write my surroundings and also where I'm at in life. And at that point, a lot of people didn't know about my sexuality. A lot of people assumed, a lot of people thought they knew, but there was no clarity on it. And a lot of the time when I would go and open as Prev now in Shamila shows, you know, the biggest thing is I can't talk about any queer things because there's a conservative Indian audience there. And they're all there for Shamila. They're not there for me. So it was like kind of being put back in that situation I was all those years back. And I was like, okay, I'm not enjoying this anymore. She's becoming a product. People want her because they want a demographic hit, and it wasn't becoming nice. So at the same time, doing Jay, who was also trying to like come out of his shell and figure out all of those things. And I was like, okay, he's going to help me, because once this show launches, that side of me is out there now. There's no hiding it. I'm going to have to talk about it. So it's the perfect time to end Shamila and go into that. And so it was very nice, because it felt like emotionally me and the character were on the same thing, like trying to figure out the career thing. Love life is always in the shits. And so it was very therapeutic. It's how I got to doing this show now as well. And I think that's why the performance came out so well, because I still have notes for myself when I watch the show. I'm like,
That
but
is
yeah.
amazing. Talking about sexuality, tell us your journey. And I know that you resonated so much with Daika and her struggles when she had mental health. And that was one of the times we started talking on
Yes.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Because you were like so proud of us for showcasing
Yeah.
that it's okay to have a down day, that if your children are
Yeah.
having, let's talk about it. Let's not be that Indian
Yeah.
community that shuns away. And I
Yeah.
think what I also would like to talk about is that you went to an all boys high school, right?
I did.
And in
Yeah.
Daika's mental health campaign and on the show, but of course it wasn't for the show, it really is happening. We launched
Yeah.
the Boys in campaign. And it's because in all of Daika's work with mental health, we noticed that there's only girls on the group, because boys are still taught not to cry, not to show emotions, not to be vulnerable, right? So
Yeah.
how did you, firstly, it's multiple questions in one here, navigate knowing your sexuality? Did you know it from a young age? How did you manage it in an all boys school? And we'll talk about parents later. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so the first question is, and this new show that I'm doing right now is like, it sums up. It's me finally being just honest about the things. And when I say being honest, it's not like there was any negative things or harsh things, but just what it was like in that perspective. So I always knew I was different when I was younger. And I wasn't like my cousins. I wasn't like the boys who were with the uncles and who were sitting and talking about cars, or sitting by their side as they're playing tani, or, like, I wasn't there. I was with my aunties inside the house, where the music was, where everyone was dancing, where everyone was. I knew then I was different. Even with my cousins, I was always drawn to my female cousins more than my male cousins. And it was always the exception. Like, it got to a point where it was like, okay, the boys are going to go there, and then we're all going to go this side. Prev, you're coming with us, let's go. So so I always knew that I was different. But at that time, I had just thought it was because I wanted to perform really badly. So that's what made me different. Like, from the time I could have memory, I wanted to perform. And so for a very long time, that was my driving force. Even in primary school, like when High School Musical and Hannah Montana and all of those shows were at its prime, I was a die-hard fan, right? Like, and that's how girls and I got along so well, because that was the one thing we had in common. We were both talking about Zac Efron. We were both talking about Hannah Montana. But even at that point in my life, it wasn't because I knew I was attracted to the same sex. It was because I wanted to be those children. Do you know what I mean? So I was so drawn to it, because so for a very long time, I didn't bother about feelings or sexuality or this or that. It never crossed my mind. All I wanted to do was, it wasn't until grade 7 going into high school when puberty hits and all of those things hit, and did I start to, and boys in primary school would say, oh, they'd make the gay comments or the gay remarks or whatever, and it would do this all the time. And I think I'm always fortunate enough, and I think this is why I always say, like, I strongly support any female organization or cause, is because the only thing that keeps a queer person safe in school is a girl, 99% of the time. 99% of the time, the strongest boy will not come up to you because the hottest girl is that person's friend, and they're going to say no, or just a girl in general. And so women, like mothers, have always been like a form of protection, and I think I'm very lucky to have had that form of protection at every stage in my life.
Talking about that, that's exactly what I see, because most gay guys have a group of best friends or best friend that's a girl. how is the communication now that we evolved? How is your friendships with guys? Has it evolved? Have guys accepted people being
Yeah,
different in society? Girls
yeah,
definitely have.
yes. No, now it's completely different, uh, and now I have more straight friends, more straight friends than I have gay friends. But so I went to high school with my former housemate when I moved out of my parents' house. My friend from high school and I. He was in high school with me. He was in my English class. He was one of the. There was a handful of straight boys at DHS who could see the queer boys and they would carry on as normal. And he was one of those boys. And then actually, I think like 3 or 4 years later, I saw he was going through a breakup on Instagram, and I texted him. At that time, Shamila was like moving, and I was hosting at clubs and all of that jazz. And so I saw his story, and I said, "Come out with us. It's been a hot minute. It looks like you need a night out." Anyway, I rekindled that friendship with my straight friend, and we decided to move out and get our own apartment together. And then I met all his straight friends, and we got along like a house on fire because
I love
everyone like, and now they are like, now I feel like I'm their mother now, you know what I mean, like any
that.
problem, any this. And that's exactly what happened is that we just gelled as guys, like, because we liked the same movies, we liked the same. I play PlayStation, so I think also their stereotype of what a queer person is, and then actually hanging out with a queer person who's not the stereotype, change their perception.
Yes.
And I think that's where we're going now. So yeah, so I forgot the question, but yes. So
Coming
I
back to
do
high
have straight
school.
friends.
You were at high school, yeah.
Yeah, yes. And then so I went to high school. I went to Queensborough High for 2 years, which was fun. That was a very naughty, raunchy school. And I couldn't. I went there because DHS wouldn't accept me at the time because I wasn't in the same zone, and my marks weren't super high, and just all of those things. And so after I did that first show at 15, and the drama teacher came and saw me because it was Hairspray, and I played Mr. Pinky in Hairspray. And yeah, the show about a black and white segregation, but they made the Indian boy the shopkeeper,
Look
which
at
was
that, yeah,
fine,
of course.
you know. So, so the drama teacher saw the show, and then I got asked to come for an interview at DHS. And then once I got to DHS, I was very intimidated. I had one friend, and because now it's an all boys school, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
and it's a school where it's rugby, and it's
Rugby. Oh
very,
boy.
very intimidating. And but I had a friend who was there already. I had a friend who was in matric, Blessing, who's also co-directed the show with me. And so I knew I had people there. And once I got there, all the queer boys kind of found each other almost immediately. It's like everyone was hanging out at separate parts of the library, and then we all realized why we're all at the library, and then we all joined forces. And then once we got comfortable in ourselves, we were like, actually, why are we hiding and sitting here? So let's go sit outside. And the one day we were sitting outside, and we were very dramatic. We pulled a lunch table, you know, the green chair tables. They're like all in one. It's like the table going for the beach. We pulled it right in front of the drama, like the theater, and that's where we sat and we had lunch. And the boys who were irritated would scream the nastiest things at us. They would, the one time someone threw an apple at our table, my friend picked up the apple, walked straight to him and said, "Hey, you dropped this." So once we joined forces, we were like, we were fine. And then I think someone at one point, one of the bullies wrote "gay table" like on the thing. And then the one day we said yes, we carried on drawing. We wrote our names around it where they say "gay table." So we were like, for any other kids who come in the future, they can come sit at this table.
We are decorating.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it was nice to have a support system, because I think being in the school alone would have been a very different ball game. And I mean, the boys would, right? When we'd separate to go to different classes, the bullies would have their way with us because we weren't a group, but also boys.
I don't think so many people are homophobic as they need to show that they are homophobic.
Mm-hmm.
school environment. I see there's the toxic
Mm-hmm.
need for boys to act more masculine and then
Yeah.
go against anybody that isn't as masculine. And I don't
Yeah.
think it's coming from almost a society pressure to do that, right?
100%. And more often than not, the most homophobic person in the school is the most closeted person in the school. So
Yeah.
everything the open person is doing is irking them so much because for various reasons. Maybe because I want to be like that person and I can't. So now, or I hear what everyone says about you, and now it's making me mad because I know I'm gay and I can't say it out loud, and that's what they're going to say when they speak to me. So there's so many different reasons as to why, but the ones who are particularly very vocal or very violent or physical about it, more often than not, it's because of something.
How was your family? How was their reaction? When did you tell them, or did they automatically assume and know?
Ooh.
We are modern Indian moms, so
Mm.
we would not have an issue. We do
Yeah,
not have an issue with anybody's child that is gay, that is bi.
yeah,
It's not an issue. But in
yeah.
saying that, would you wish that on your own child? Because
Mm.
you know how your child's going to get judged. And when Losh and I were chatting,
Mm.
we were
Mm.
uh, comparing it to Daika doing homeschooling. So normal school
Mm.
didn't work for Daika, and we chose homeschooling.
Mm.
Would we choose that if
Mm.
we didn't want pushed against the wall? Absolutely not. So I think
Mm.
that this concept of normal needs to be re-examined. But anything
Yes.
that goes against the norm is harder.
Mm.
And nobody
Yeah.
wants their child to have a harder life. So, in
Yes.
whatever field that is, if you are going against mainstream, whatever that
Mm.
is, you are
Mm.
choosing a harder route. It means you'll be bullied
Mm.
more. It means times are harder. People don't accept what you're doing.
And so I think that's it. I think in terms of the family dynamics, we're still in this lull, like about not talking about it. So my family is very big. Like my immediate family is 25 people. Like my mom has two sisters. My mom has two sisters, and their in-laws are very much my immediate family. So my uncle's sister's kids are like my cousins. We say we're first cousins because that's how close we are. Christmases, we're together. Like everything, we're together. So the family all, by the time high school and all of that jazz happened, they could tell. So no one would ask. My nanny would say, when you bring in the girlfriend, but
Yeah.
just to try and see. My mother wouldn't talk about it. My mother wouldn't talk about it. I'd have guy friends. The moment she'd notice that there could be a gay friend or a queer friend, she'd ice them out immediately now because she didn't want that whole thing. My cousins, my two female cousins knew from the get-go. I would go to them about boy problems or this or that or. So I had support in families and aunties who sat me down and said, "We know it's fine. Your mother is just. My mother comes from a very old school mindset.
Yes.
She's the what the people will say mindset, and that drives
Yes.
every decision of the day. And so the one day I went my first time I ever went to London, I went to stay with my aunt, my mom's sister-in-law, but she's my best friend. And so I was 21. I went to London. I sat with her on the couch. She poured us wine, and she was like, "So tell me about your boyfriend." So I started hyperventilating. I'm like, "Boyfriend? I don't know. What do you?" She's like, "I've been living in London for 12 years. I know you are gay. I'm not like your family. In fact, I'm just like you because I left everyone at 25. Talk to me." And so from that day, I knew I had a solid form of support in the family, like an adult figure that was very. And so, yeah, so that all happened. I still never ever did the official coming out thing to my mother. I mean, right up until now, because my life became very public. But the day she found out for real, was I was seeing someone in high school at the time. Him and I were on a video call. I fell asleep on the video call with him. He fell asleep on the video call. My father came to the room, picked up the phone, saw the video call, saw our messages, went straight to my mother, showed my mother,
Oh,
and
my
then
God.
yeah. Yeah. This is why we're comedians. Otherwise, how else must we get through it?
Yeah, exactly. After crying.
So then the next day, my mother called me to the room, to the kitchen. She freaked out as I would imagine her to have freaked out. I will kill myself. I will da 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 da. And I let her have it because now her harshest reality was becoming real,
Yes.
and so I let it happen. And then I called my cousins. I called my auntie, who's a pastor, and I was like, I packed my bags. I'm like, I'm coming. I'm coming to you, and don't ask, and I'm coming to you. So I went there. Went to my aunt. I think by the time from leaving my parents' house to going to Amshlanga, everyone had my mother had phoned who they needed to phone because they knew I was going somewhere. So I went to my aunt, and my auntie was like, "You take your time. You can stay as long as you want. Your mother can take as much time as she needs, and But that's where we are. And so after that moment, my mother and I never spoke about it again. We never, ever, ever spoke about it again. And then Shamila happened, and then this happened. So I think every time she saw me doing something queer or things that normal boys don't do, and she saw people accepting it and loving it, especially the Indian community, it eased her more. Because I think that was her fear. I think coming from the time of if an Indian celebrity had to be, come out as gay in the late 90s or early 2000s, it's on newspapers and it's this and it's that and now she's seeing people are buying tickets to shows, people are lining up, now there's awards, now there's this, now it kind of eased her into where we are now. So now we're at a place where she knows, and by her and I constantly talking. The other day she phoned me to give her opinions on her earrings, and I'm like, come on, girl, come on, you can't be in denial. You're asking me, you have a daughter in the house, but you're asking me which earrings I must put on. So
I think that is such a big problem because we do not talk openly with our elders, starting from our
yes,
moms. In most brown
yes,
houses,
yes,
we're lucky if you have an open mom, but most people don't. So it's like
yes,
even having your first boyfriend, like in a white
mm,
community or maybe a black community, they parents know
yeah,
from the beginning, and the Indian kids
yeah,
are hiding it. So
yeah,
whether there's a lot of, I think we need to break the stigma and we need to
mm,
open communication.
mm,
So from our generation, generally, you could never tell your parents you're dating anybody. There was a lot of things
yes,
that were never discussed, right?
yes,
So
yes,
now, when our kids are that open with us about literally everything, it's like you
mm,
need to take a deep breath and not react. Sometimes we have to phone each
yes,
other to say, like, "This is what they said." Like, we hope they aren't
mm,
that open, but our kids are
yeah,
very open with us, and
yes,
we also know not to
and
react because we want them to be
yes,
open. We want that open
yes,
communication.
yes,
It's what we didn't have growing up that we would like to have
yes,
moving forward.
yes,
I read a quote once and it said, be the mom that your child runs to when they have a problem rather than be the one that I'm scared to tell my mom because of how she reacts.
mm-hmm, mm. And I think the other thing on that, right, the being scared to talk about or whatever. Again, like I said, I think I would have had a very different life path if I didn't have support systems everywhere I went. I feel very blessed by God in that way. In any aspect of my life, there was a figure, be it a friend or a family member, who was there to just so I felt supported. You know what I mean? It's otherwise I don't know. But there are some people or some boys who because the pressure of embarrassment and disappointment is it's so heavy on them because their parents make it that way because they have a standard of what their child should be. Some of those queer kids go on to having kids and becoming
Yes.
grandparents and
Yes.
becoming and
So
it's
true.
just and it's all because there's no room for communication. There's also no room for understanding. There's it's
Yes.
just it's either this or
And Prev, what you spoke about your mom, but you never spoke about your dad. And I think
mm,
often mom tries to sort out the problem so dad doesn't have to shout at
mm,
you. I think as
mm,
Indian moms,
yes,
we always want to be the buffer. So sometimes we come across as harder because we don't want you to get into
yeah,
trouble with your dad. How was your dad?
yeah. My dad and I mean, we, it's weird. Like growing up, I think we had, I don't want to say rocky, but rocky is the only word kind of relationship. And it's obviously because I was the only son and everyone else's sons were watching soccer and going here and cricket matches and this and that and this, and I wasn't doing that. You know what I mean? So, but on the flip side of that, if there was an audition, if there was my father put me for vocal training, if there was anything that I wanted to do that was my hobby, he took me. So I wanted to audition for X Factor. He would sit with me from 5 in the morning in an X Factor live, or The Voice, or Idols, or he never not supported that, you know. But on the other side, there was that. So when my mom had the whole freak out moment, when I had packed my stuff and I had left home to go to my cousin's house, he started to panic because he thought I was going to do something silly, or he didn't think so.
It's very often the case when families find out and the pressure on the child.
Yes, so the moment I left the driveway, my father started calling me immediately, like calling me, where are you going, you're fine, your mom's gonna calm down, just everyone relax. So he was doing that. In fact, I think he was the one who phoned my auntie because he would have known where I was going. At the time, I think I was like first year varsity because I was driving. And I think he knew that was the cousin I would go to, because after was that side, and we from Queensborough, so that after was by Westville. And so I think he phoned my auntie to say, heads up, he's coming, here's what's happening, da 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 da. So he's been like a silent supporter. I don't know. It's just the best way. But now it's so cute now because he finds ways, and you know what I love, what I'm experiencing now, because my parents are getting closer to their 60s, and like my dad, mom, and my parents can be such old people, you know. So like now my dad's way of trying to bond with me is like, I'll go home, we'll sit in the lounge, we're watching TV, and he'll be like, so did you see Beyonce performed at the Super Bowl, or did you like? He'll bring the most. Yeah. But he tries to stay clued up, or like randomly he'll send me a TikTok about, I don't know, Ariana Grande doing something, or like, did you see this, or did you? So Shane, he's getting at this place where I think he's trying to. Everyone's trying, but you know, no one's going to talk about it. But everyone's trying to make it a normal thing.
Every parent just wants your child to be happy.
Absolutely.
Whatever that happiness.
Yeah. I think the thing I always say is that, especially with me, because obviously the thing in the community is if you come out, you're a disappointment to the community, and you're a disappointment to this person, and da 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 da. And I think when I had come more accepting of myself, really, I was like, at that point, we had Nickelodeon, we had Shamila, we had sold out shows, we had this, we had that. I was like, I have literally done nothing anyone could say I've disappointed my parents. I know that there's nothing in my life that could say, oh, you were a disappointment to them. And if you think my sexuality is a disappointment, then all that shows is you're a homophobic person, because that's how you view that, you know. So yeah.
So Prev, if you had to give advice to a young boy today who is navigating the struggle of, should I say something? Should I just mask and pretend because that's easier? What advice would you give to somebody in that teen years that is now going through this?
Speak to somebody. You know, and everyone says it, but it's so hard when you're there. Like no one does it, because you sit there something like, who must I speak to? And if you feel like the circles you're in right now is not a safe space for you to speak in, then maybe you're in the wrong circles. Do you know what I mean? It may be, if you feel like what you're going to bring up is going to make the room uncomfortable, then go find the right room for yourself. But don't associate being with the rugby boys or the basketball boys as successful or popular, or that doesn't carry over after high school. Everyone tells them that. Like, if you're popular in high school and whatever, good, that's high school. Because outside, it's a different ball game, and you'd rather want to leave high school having friends than leaving high school having to make friends all over again, you know, or real friends all over again. And I just think it's really okay. And if you don't want to speak to a family member or this or that, but speak to someone. You know, it's important because it has such long-term effects.
Yes. And Prev, my next question is, if we as moms
Yeah.
Or no, let me put it this way. What advice would you give to a mom who can see her child is a bit different, possibly
Mm.
hoping that it's not the case? But how would
Mm.
you encourage a mom to navigate this conversation with her son? Because what we want
Mm.
for moms, what we want out of this episode is for
Mm.
moms to speak to their sons.
I think it's listening with your eyes, right? Like if you can see that your child is different, or if you can see that making a homophobic joke is it makes them wince a certain way, or if you're saying that, if you even the slight comparison thing, because I have my mom's sister's my cousin, he's like my brother, right? But our whole lives we were compared. He's tall, he's fit, he's buff, he was sporty, he was cricket, he was da 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 da. And there was always comparisons, whether people knew they were making them, or whether they didn't know they were making them. And even those small things affects you, because you're like, oh, okay, because he's playing cricket and he looks like that and he's here all the time, that makes him the perfect boy. So now my thing is not the perfect. You know what I mean? It's just you have to notice those things, because otherwise, that's when your child doesn't speak to you. There's no communication, and it doesn't have to be formal. I think the most petrifying thing about coming out is the idea of an audience. And now everyone must look at me, because now I have to tell everybody that I like someone who's like me. That is terrifying to any human being, and it shouldn't be the case. And now, if you're spotting it in your 14 or 15 or 16-year-old child, and they're quiet or whatever, because you get some queer people who are very loud and very vocal, and they'll stand on,
Yes.
this is who I am and that's who I am. And then you get the other side of it, and if you can see that you're dealing with someone from the other side, like you said earlier, your response, whether you have to go back and phone your sister afterwards and you have to exhale, you just need to hear that person, because it's a big step. So I don't think it needs to be a sit down conversation. It makes it more awkward, and more often than not, it feels like you're being cornered or ambushed. Now I have to tell you, because so it's about noticing the small things, and then making the environment more comfortable for
I love
the
that.
child.
I
Do you
love
know what I
that.
mean? So that, yeah, so otherwise it's just it's weird, and it shouldn't be a thing. I always say it shouldn't be a thing. Like, no one should come out about anything. Like, because it's private business at the end of the day. Like, it's a private thing.
There
Yeah.
is no box now.
Well, exactly, and this whole thing is having such a shift, right? Because the kids now, your kids who are in high school, and then the kids who are going to be in primary school before them, and they are growing up in a world where we who have been screaming for equality and acceptance, it exists now.
Let me tell you, that's exactly it, right? Because our kids have been brought up with this, so it's a non-issue with them. We get scolded because we
Exactly.
may say something that is politically incorrect, or we may be cancelled. And
Yes.
we are saying what
Yes.
we have. I know we try
Yes.
to. We are open-minded, right? So we are not your typical
Yes.
idiot.
Yeah. That's it. It's weird, because we feel like we're still fighting for that acceptance and equality thing, and we are too busy here and too focused here to realize that it's actually working behind us. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's actually it's working, because that's what's happening. And I had a friend the other day, and she's 27, 28, and she's talking to a guy who's 24 or something, and she was like, oh, I'm talking to this younger guy. I'm like, okay, by 4 years, relax. But still, younger guy. And he was like, she was talking about how he flirts with her, but she also thinks he flirts with boys, and she doesn't know how she feels about that. And I was like, you have to understand now that within his age group and younger, that is normal. Like, by the bisexual, so for where we are old school now, in the sense that I could never be a guy who is also with a girl who also sees girls, or vice versa, vice versa. That is the old school way of thinking now, because we've been telling these young children, you can love who you want to love.
That personality more than gender, more than sex or gender.
Yes, yeah, that's the one I learned about recently also.
LGBTQ, and I think this extended network of labels makes it more difficult for the antiquated mom to understand the
Yeah.
process.
I'm still learning. I'm constantly learning. And in fact, my friends and I sometimes say, you know what, we'll be the grannies of the group, and we don't want to learn anymore because now there's so many, like you were saying, there's the being attracted to the personality thing, then there's this thing. But for me, it's like, how does being attracted to a personality differentiate from being bi? But no, bi is because bi is this, and I'm like,
I
you
can
just if you
understand. Talk about your new show, Triple Threat. That
yeah,
seems to
I
be a
know.
cracker. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so we actually started the show. So again, it went from miseducation to retiring Auntie Shamila, and Shamila's farewell show, and then I was ready for like the next step, right? And so again, I think the the make your own work person in me never dies, because when miseducation happened, anyone who gets a lead character on a Netflix show would expect their career to do this, or
Yeah.
expect the work to just be pouring in. But it wasn't the case. And so for me, I was like, oh, okay, I gotta refocus then. What am I gonna do next? What am I gonna talk about next? Because now Shamila's done. Now the show is done. And I knew I wanted to go to the Edinburgh Fringe in Scotland. I knew I wanted to take a comedy show there. So we sign up for the Fringe. We get accepted to go into the Fringe. And then I start writing a show that's just stand up. Like it's normal stand up. I'm going to go on there, I'm going to tell jokes. And something in me it wasn't sitting right. I'm like, no, man, I'm not going all the way to Scotland with a show and it's going to be boring. Because one thing I know about my shows is that they're not boring. It's different, and there's something there and I know I'm good at telling stories. I know I can sit and tell a story to someone for an hour and like tell it engagingly. Like, so I sat for a bit and then I was like, okay, well, I've never spoken about what I told you guys, that bit about coming out to my mother. Like, that's in the show. I've never spoken about what it was like from my POV, wanting to just be a performer, but now also having to deal with my sexuality because society says this and family says this, and now also going into an industry where I'm a minority and there's no. So I put all of that down into paper, and I said, okay, Shamila was the theatrical aspects of the Shamila shows. She was the singing, she was the dancing, she was the lights, the costume changes. And I was like, I still want that element in my show. And I think for a long time in the comedy industry, I've never felt accepted in the comedy industry, because I had the shortcut because of social media, but also I wasn't really doing what people perceived as comedy, right? To be able to stand up for that,
Yes.
yeah. And so for a long time, I let that bug me because I'm like, well, I'll never be a real comedian in front of these people. And then after all of this stuff, it just clicked, and I'm like, no one has a say on what comedy is. If I'm standing up talking to someone for an hour, regardless of how I'm talking to them, that is stand-up comedy.
Totally,
So
yeah.
so when I did the show, then I created, it's almost like a theater piece. It's a hybrid theater stand-up show. There's moments where I play my mother. I give her POV because I always say, never be angry at our elders because they come from a different time. So in the show, you have me who's complaining about what it was like hearing the elders say things about being gay. And then I quickly go and change into my mother and I give her POV and that POV. So I brought in
I
a
love
theater element of it. I also always believe in representing Indian culture and showing how different we are. And so a running thing, like throughout when I'm starting scenes in the show, I say, for example, gay, South African gay English definition, and I give the English definition of gay, and then I go gay, South African Indian definition, and I have this Indian dictionary that says not under my effing roof. Close. So it's like,
yeah.
so I use that to tie in like cultural to bridge. You know me, I'm always trying to bridge something, like I'm a builder, but to bridge that gap. So the show is very different. It's just a mixture of things, and we had some good responses at the Fringe Festival last year, from all demographics, all races. People just fell in love with the heart of the story. There was a girl who's from Mumbai and she's studying in Oxford University, and she's doing her thesis on South Asian diaspora through comedy. So hearing where Indians come from are through their comedy voices, because a lot of us speak our truth in that. And so she saw my show and she was like, firstly, she didn't know anything about the South African Indians. She had no idea we were such a different culture. She's also never heard of a gay South African Indian. And so she's made me the key part, she's made my show the key part of her thesis. So she wrote a whole thesis on the show. So for me, I was like, okay, it's resonating, it's hitting with people, it's teaching people. I had a mom who came to me afterwards and she was like, you know, that scene with you and your mom, I have a son who's very much like you. And I didn't know, until hearing you say everything that happened now, I think I would have reacted like the way your mother reacted. But she's like, now that I'm seeing it played in front of me, I'm not going to react like that. Because I can see how it has hurt you, and it has... Yeah. Yeah, so the show has been very, 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 very... I feel like the past 2 years also, I've just been on this mental healing journey and like the growing up. I feel like I'm in the meat of my growing pains now and figuring out so many things and figuring out what matters and what do I want to do and is that gonna matter, you know? So I'm very proud of the show. My friend Blessing, who also went to DHS, we went to DHS together. They co-wrote the show, co-directed the show. And yeah, we've just been getting a lot of support. People are seeing the show and it's been very, very, it's been good support.
We know your show is out on the 3rd of May in Joberg. The question is, when is it coming to Durban?
Oh my gosh.
Don't leave us out.
I've been getting asked that question from the time we announced, because the last I performed in Durban was Auntie Shama. We did ICC. That was a crazy... Did you guys come to that show? I didn't know you guys then. I would have sent tickets higher life. I remember sitting backstage and my heart was pumping and my manager and everyone and the dancers are trying to calm me down. And then people are sending me videos of the lines outside in the parking lot and like security blocking, and I started going in like full panic mode. But that was the last time I performed there. And I think the truth is, the real reason why I'm scared to come and do the show, and there we go, I said it. Like, I think I'm scared to come and do the show in Durban because I'm always worried if Durban is ready for it, for that kind of material. Or not even that kind of material, just based on what I've done for so long, this is so different, you know?
Yes, but I think with our voices, even with the Mommy Club, Durban's never going to be ready. We are pushing them to the route of being ready. So I think people will come for you, and I think what you say is what they need to hear. Agree. And it's a beautiful way of doing it because you're laughing through the pain. You know, and there's so many that are going to come and resonate, as you said, the other mom said, and say, okay, I'm going to handle the situation differently now.
Yeah, no, it's definitely in the pipelines. Like, I've been asked, you know, I get asked like once a week from a different promoter or from this person or that person. So I think once I'm done, because we're doing the show on the 31st of May in London, and that was because these two promoters came and saw the show at the Fringe last year, and they were like, we need to bring the show. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, cool. So after London's done, I'm going to be in London for some time. I'm leaving on the 16th of May, and I come back. I don't know when I'm going to come back. I'm going to try and gig. So I've got friends there who run comedy clubs and all of that. So I'm just going to go and gig and perform. And yeah, there's nothing really tying me back at home yet. And then also it'll become a holiday in itself for me after wrapping up the show. So maybe when I'm back, we'll do the show.
Yes. We are definitely getting controls to that.
Oh, 100%. No, 100%. And it's so nice because Blessing was watching the show back because we're going to go into rehearsal now for next week. And they're watching the show and he was referring to the script and the page because it felt like I was going off script because the show was so casual, but it was completely on script. And that's exactly what the show is. It's just a casual conversation between me and you. That's it. It's me. It's a friend coming over and I'm just telling you this. Yeah, so yeah, maybe I will. I will. It's there. It's in
Yeah,
the, it's
no,
in
I
the
think now
in the
let's
sphere.
lock it in.
Yeah, let's lock it
Not
in.
our.
Okay.
Can we
As long as
commitment?
as long as you
Lie.
bring as long as you bring that baking pan naan loaf.
Done.
That's
Done.
And
oh
the sausages. Non-loaf, and
as
I'll throw
yes.
in baby fat sausages.
Okay, then I'll have to do the show. Then I'll
Then
have to
you
do
have
the show.
to.
That's the only way I'll do the show.
Prev, we want to say, we are so proud of you as a young Indian boy in our
Thank you.
community. Not as a gay boy, not
Thank
as a
you.
straight boy, it doesn't matter.
Thank
The,
you.
the, the stereotypes, the ceilings that you have broken is
Absolutely.
beyond most kids' imagination. And as a young adult, you are
Thank
such
you.
an inspiration to our future generation and the kids growing up. And
Thank you.
as your bigger sisters, I wouldn't say old enough to be your mom, but
100%.
bigger sisters, we cannot be more proud of you. We wish you all the
Thank
best
you.
and all the best in
Thank
London.
you.
I think the biggest
Thank you.
takeaway coming from this conversation is, of course, we know you're using humor and all of that, but your resilience and your ability to pivot is what has really made you a success. When you realize one
Yeah.
stream wasn't working, you pivoted, you changed, you did something else, and you're always keeping your eye on the ball and changing where you need to. What has made you this successful, and that is a good lesson across the board in every field. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just keep on working,
Yeah.
keep on striving. And at the
And
end of the
thank
show, we do say, what did we take out on the show? And there's so much, right?
Yeah.
What we did, I think it is exactly that. The pivoting, the striving, the moving to Joberg, moving back. It's just always moving forward. And I love that for you. Yes.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate that you guys did this because every time I have to message, and this is the truth, every time I have to message somebody famous, even if we are friends, even if we sat and we ate pizza till 2 a.m., I always get some kind of nervous because I always feel like I don't want to bother somebody in their day. Like I don't want to, I know how constantly busy it is. And whenever, especially if I'm coming to say, hey, can I get on, or can I do this, or I always feel, and you guys were you're so supportive. And the message that you sent me after Content Creator Awards, like, I tell everyone, like everybody I meet, I'm like, the twins are the nicest ladies I've ever met. And just so genuine. And your message that you sent me for everyone listening and watching, Losh sent me a message after the Content Creator Awards. And can I read it? Do you mind if I read it?
Of course.
Can I read it? Because it was such a beautiful message. And I'm not even going to lie to you. I go back to it sometimes when I'm having like a day, which they frequent. But it was just because we had just spent one evening together, and you just said such a nice thing to me. Anyway, so okay, so you said also we were talking about something. You said also you have done amazingly. Don't ever doubt your influence and your reach. My entire family has always been a big fan, and we're super proud of all you have achieved. That day you sent that message, I was going through such a bad time. Like I was in such a bad headspace. I was feeling like, because I think I was trying to do something on the internet, and I was like, oh, nobody cares anymore. But like this is exactly like nobody cares anymore. It's really like, because views, when we get stuck by the numbers, or we get stuck by, and people you've worked with previously want to see what you did, but it's not the same thing. And it was just a very horrible time for me. And you sent me that message randomly, and you changed my whole day that day. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for being so supportive. Like it really means a lot. So thank you.
We wish you
Okay.
so well in all of your future endeavors. I'm not even going to say I hope it's a success, because
Thank
I
you.
already know it's going to be a success.
Absolutely.
We're manifesting that
Thank
in the
you.
universe already.
Absolutely.
So we absolutely
Thank
love
you.
you, and continue shining.
Thank you. I love you guys. Thanks, guys. I love you guys. Thank you for having me. Bye everyone.